Hello, I'm Keith Jowers, and this is Dad's Garage. This is another episode from Dads for Life Ministries. We are going to be talking today about patience. Sometimes you have to pray for patience, but then when you pray for patience, you say, well, maybe I shouldn't have prayed that hard for patience, right? Especially when you're raising a teenager. I've talked to a lot of dads who just simply say, those are the toughest years. I was recently talking to a dad who said his 14-year-old girl is absolutely taking up so much time because of the friction that's going on in their family. And it's just really drawing their family apart some. So I said, I just talked to him, I said, well, do you know what's going on in her life at school? No. Do you know what's going on, like what kind of friends she's hanging around? Do you know her type of friends that she's hanging around? No. I said, well, you need to really just think about what's going on in her life and actually talking to her and trying to understand where she's coming from sometimes. Now, some folks would say, well, that is very difficult to do. And I said, well, I can understand that there are situations that can be really, really carried on a long time about a particular situation. But I want you to think about actually just breaking it down into talking to them about that particular issue and not all of her issues or all of his issues, simply because you have to work on one problem at a time. So I gave him our book, Daily Connections, and he was reading through that, and he texted me and said, you know what? This is working, and I really appreciate you just talking to me. I said, well, just like you talked to me and I listened and you listened to me, you need to do the same thing with your teenagers. So patience sometimes can bring some really difficult challenges, but when you actually sit down and talk them out, the truth is that home needs to be the safest place for them. And if they can't really talk about their issues, I'm not talking about arguing, because it does take two people to argue. I'm talking about really just telling them, you know, how you feel and hoping they're going to tell you how they feel and without the arguing going on. But sometimes when we make mistakes, sometimes we have to apologize too. And that patience can really kind of stretch that family rubber band some to where it pops. And what I mean is, you know, you're playing with a rubber band, you pull it too tight sometimes and it pops. You don't want it to get that far. You want it to really just keep it flexible. And you want to talk to them as much as you can about the situation going on or the problem, because it is a family unit and they are your child and they do need your direction. Sometimes they just don't know it. And you as a father do not need to just break down it even further, that situation. You need to have it controlled the best way you can. And even though they may not like your decisions sometimes, well, you're still the father of that home and you need to make those decisions, even though they may think it's the wrong decision. But as a patient father, basically is helping them understand that, hey, everything will work out sometimes with communication. You just have to talk it out as long as it's going to be able to resolve that situation. Now, an open-minded father actually allows that family a safe place. So listen to them, dads. Listen to them, and let's hear out their story or their situation, and let's try to bring a resolve to it. And even though it's tough, even though sometimes it's like sandpaper talking to your teenager, I believe that I remember actually talking to my daughter about some situations about boys. You know, it did get a little friction sometimes with that sandpaper type conversation, but I let her know that really it's not my job to show her how to be a lady. It's my job to teach her how a lady should be treated. And that's why I believe that my decision for that particular situation was best for her. And she kind of understood that as she got a little older. They may not understand it right away, parents, but I can tell you this, that over time, you making the right decisions for them is going to benefit them further in life. Another common trait I find with dads that are successful over time is simply they're open-minded. They actually, when they do listen to their children, when they do hear them out, and they don't always interrupt them and they listen more, then they come back with an answer. But make sure that answer is calm when you do that. Now, being open-minded, some men have the wrong idea that being open-mindedness sometimes can let them have their way all the time. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actually just taking control of the situation without losing control in the situation. Think about when they talk, are you always interrupting them? Are you always saying, no, it's going to be my way, or the highway, so to speak, as I've heard some dads have responded? Or do you actually listen out and then just give them maybe steps, steps towards a better resolve than just screaming back an answer to them or yelling at them? Being open-minded is very, very important when it comes to listening to your children, regardless of the age. Now, some you can't negotiate with toddlers. I understand that. Sometimes you can't negotiate with teenagers because they feel like they have all the answers. They just don't know what questions we're asking sometimes. But an open-minded man, basically, you accept their conversation. You're listening to their conversation, but you're not actually demanding that it be your way. You're giving them the resolve that they need, I think, as a parent. And over time, it's going to work out for them. It truly is. So I want you to think about that and being open-minded. Last time we talked about being patient. Well, this is being open-minded. I think that togetherness, that you guys would be able to resolve that situation just by practicing being patient and being more open-minded. It's going to work better for you because you're the adult and you need to hear them out a little bit, but then you are teaching them about being patient and open-minded because you're practicing that. The open-minded man accepts his family's thoughts on a matter, and he talks it out with them by being patient and remaining open-minded. That way, you're teachable. That's Dad's Garage, right here at Dads for Life. Until next time, bye-bye.